Welcome to the Resume Writing Workshop presented by Career Services. Why exactly do you need a resume? Most jobs and internships require you to submit one before you can be considered for the opportunity, but there are plenty of other situations where a resume might be required, including college applications, scholarships, and even giving a TED Talk. This workshop will teach you how to write an effective and eye-catching resume for any situation. Before we go any further, be sure to download the Professional Toolkit, which includes helpful resume templates and tips, by clicking the link in the description below the video. In this workshop, we're going to define what a resume is, look at some resume writing techniques, and discuss cover letters and references. Before we look at how to write an effective resume, let's define the word resume. How we think about something often determines how we approach it, so let's make sure we're thinking about resumes in the most efficient way possible. A dictionary definition of a resume might sound like this: a brief written account of personal, educational, and professional accomplishments and experience. However, it's more effective to think of a resume as a powerful advertising piece to sell your skills, experience, abilities, and knowledge. The goal of the resume is to convince the hiring manager that you are the best fit for the job. So rather than thinking of a resume as a list of specific, objective criteria, think of it as a document that should contain the most relevant, important, useful, and impressive information possible. Let's try a quick exercise. I'm going to flash part of a resume on the screen. Your job is to review the resume and candidate's qualifications. Ready? Go. And stop. That wasn't very much time, was it? What information do you remember from the resume? Chances are you focused on the person's name, maybe some of the bold titles, or some of the numbers that appeared. Your eye naturally went to what looked different and was easy to read. The reason you were only allowed to look at the resume for 6 seconds is because that's the average amount of time that an employer spends reading your resume if nothing catches their eye. For context, that's shorter than the attention span of a goldfish. With that thought in mind, it's critical to make your resume easy to read and ensure that the most important information stands out. Next, let's look at this true-false question. My resume is not very detailed, but that's okay, because I will explain myself in the interview. What do you think the answer to this question is? The answer is false, because if the resume does not catch the employer's attention or make you seem like a good fit, you won't be invited to the interview at all. Writing your resume is all about branding. You're trying to appeal to a specific target audience with a specific type of resume. It's sort of like cereal boxes. When you look at the cereal on the left, it's pretty clear who the target audience is: younger children. The bright colors, cartoon characters, and promises of toys inside the box are all meant to appeal to kids. However, the cereal brands on the right are aimed at an adult audience who are concerned with health, protein, and nutrition. What does this have to do with resumes? It means that a software development resume is going to be very different than a public relations resume, because the target audience is very different. But even if you're applying for multiple software developer jobs with your software developer resume, different software development employers ask for different qualifications, so even those resumes will look a little different. The more you can appeal to a specific target audience or employer, the more successful your resume will be. With that in mind, let's start looking at how to build an effective resume. In the description below, you'll find a link to the Professional Toolkit and a resume worksheet. This worksheet is a great way to start brainstorming your best accomplishments, work history, and coursework before constructing your resume. You'll never submit a resume that contains all of this information, but it's best to know the extent of what you have to choose from before you start writing, so you don't leave anything out and can choose the most relevant information. One big myth about resume writing is that there's only one right way to write a resume. Actually, there are many effective ways and many ineffective ways to write a resume. The format I'm going to recommend is just one of many effective ways. It's called the hybrid or combination resume. You can find this template in the Professional Toolkit, which is linked below. No matter what template or format you use, every resume should have these 5 categories. First, your name and contact information. Your name should be in bold and at the top of the resume. I recommend centering it to really make it stand out. Under your name, list your phone number and email. Your phone number should lead to a voicemail box that is operational, so the caller can leave a message. Also make sure your voicemail box is not full. The email should have your name in it. This is considered business professional. Gmail is generally considered a more professional email account. You don't need to include your physical address. This will protect your privacy, prevent location bias, and also save room on your resume. Next, there's the skills and qualifications section. I recommend putting this section at the top of your resume so it stands out. This is a list of what makes you a good fit for the job you're applying for, so what you include here should showcase some of your most important skills, certifications, and abilities. A great way to create this section is to find a specific job or internship description. Look for the section labeled Qualifications or Requirements or Preferred Skills, and use that to begin building your qualifications section. Think of it as echoing exactly what the employer wants to see, but in your own words. Then you have your work experience. You'll want to include your work experience from the last 10 years, but don't go back further than 15 years if possible. The employer is interested in your most recent work experience. You can also include extensive volunteer experiences, internships, involved club memberships, and self-employment and personal projects on this list. Be sure to list your job title, the employer's name, the location, and the month and year that you started and finished each experience. You'll also want to include a list of your most important accomplishments. There are many different ways to include accomplishments on a resume. One way is to list the accomplishments under the specific job experiences that they go with, like the example that's currently showing on the screen. However, listing them this way might limit you to talking only about certain experiences or scattering those experiences across your resume. Here's an alternative look for your consideration. Instead of listing your accomplishments per experience, you can list your accomplishments under specific category headers, such as administrative experience. This will allow you to talk about your administrative experience from across all your jobs, volunteering, and classroom simulations, for example. Be sure to focus not just on what you did, but also on the result of your actions. Use numbers, dollar amounts, and percentages to your advantage. For example, which of these points stands out to you more? The one with the number, right? Numbers catch the eye and are difficult to disprove on a resume, so use them as much as possible. You can talk about assisting up to 150 clients per day or decreasing the loading time of a computer program by 45%, for example. When you write these examples, use strong action words to pull the reader in. Instead of starting with the word I on your statements, begin with an action word like managed, increased, or strategized. You can find a comprehensive list of action words in the professional toolkit linked below. Here are a few examples of strong accomplishment-oriented sentences. Organized and managed over 25 events with the Student Government Association while attending Eastern Florida State College. Demonstrated exceptional customer service skills and ability to relate to customers' needs and concerns, resulting in a promotion. Performed routine installs, moves, adds, and changes as part of a directed team for 2 years. Lastly, there's education and training. You'll want to list your degrees, where you went to college, and when you completed your degrees. You don't need to list high school unless you're currently dual enrolled. If you're in the middle of completing a degree program, you can include the expected month and year when you plan to have that degree completed by. You can even list the courses you completed underneath your degree. This is a great way to include relevant keywords on your resume if you don't yet have much experience in that particular field. If you have any relevant certifications, such as CPR, Microsoft Office, or OSHA training, be sure to include these as well. It's critical to keep your resume limited to one page. If you have extensive experience in a specific field, such as 20+ years, you've probably earned the right to extend your resume to 2 pages, and this would even be expected. However, keep in mind that most employers only look at your resume for 6 seconds, so you'll want to streamline the information as much as possible. A 1-page resume is most ideal. If you focus your resume only on relevant information instead of listing all of your experience in various fields, it will be much easier to condense to 1 page. Be sure to use industry-specific keywords when you write your resume. A great way to identify keywords is to look at specific job descriptions to see what words are used. Most of the time, a computer looks at your resume before a human being ever does. It's looking for keywords from the job description that will make you a good fit and filtering out the best matches for an in-person interview. Be mindful about including keywords on your resume for this reason. You might have heard of an objective statement, a sentence that goes at the top of the resume, and wondering why we haven't talked about it. Objective statements are widely outdated. They more or less state that you want to obtain the job, which isn't necessary since the resume is already making that very clear. As an alternative to an objective statement, you can consider a professional summary, which focuses on what skills you're bringing to the employer and how you can be a benefit, rather than focusing on what you want from the employer. For example, to leverage my 10-plus years of client-facing experience, public speaking skills, and expertise in the tech industry in a public relations role at a growing educational technology startup. In general, professional summaries work best on resumes that have over 10 years of experience in a specific field. Next, let's talk a little bit about e-resumes. In the 21st century, it's common for resumes to be sent digitally instead of handed over in person. If an employer ever asks you for your resume, keep these tips in mind. You'll want to save your resume in 3 formats: plain text, Word, and PDF. Word, or DocX, is the default saved file for your resume. It's the one that allows you to edit your resume. If you select Save As and choose the Save As type, you'll also have the option to save as either a PDF or a plain text document. The PDF version of your resume is almost like a photo. It locks all the information in place so that it can no longer be edited. We highly recommend sending or uploading the PDF version of your resume whenever possible, as this will ensure the resume arrives looking exactly as you sent it, and the formatting will not be messed up during delivery. You might be less familiar with plain text. Plain text allows you to copy and paste the resume into the body of an email. This comes in handy when an employer asks you to email them a copy of your resume. Here's why. Some email servers are more secure than others. Some attachments may even go to spam. In other words, if you send your resume as an attachment, the employer might never see it. The safest thing to do is to send 2 emails, one with your resume as an attached PDF and the other as a plain text email. You'll copy and paste the plain text version of the resume into the email body and send it. This way, if one of the emails doesn't go through, the other will, and you can rest assured that your resume is delivered. Let's talk about references. First, you don't need them on a resume. In fact, you don't even need to say references available upon request on your resume. Instead, you'll include them on a separate document or piece of paper. You'll want to include at least 3 different references, one of which should be a prior supervisor at a job, internship, or volunteer site. Be sure to let your references know that you're planning to use them so that they can prepare for the phone call. Better yet, send them a copy of your resume so they know what skills of yours to emphasize. Never use family members or members of your household as a reference, as these are seen as biased sources by the employer. Here's an example of how to list a reference. Include their name, employer, title, phone number, email, and your relation to them. Lastly, let's talk about cover letters. A cover letter is a 1-page document that accompanies your resume and introduces you and your qualifications to a potential employer. You'll always want to include a cover letter, even if it's optional. You can find an example of a cover letter template in the professional toolkit linked below this video. Notice that it's broken up into 3 sections. Before you begin writing your cover letter, note the greeting. If you don't know the person's name to whom you are addressing the letter, you can simply say, "To whom it may concern." However, listing the recipient's name is much more impactful. You can call the company's HR office to obtain the name of the hiring manager or interviewer to include on your cover letter as a small way to stand out. The first paragraph of the body introduces you and how you found the job. If someone recommended you, be sure to drop their name in the first sentence. You can also include a few of your qualifications from your resume here, but limit yourself to the most eye-catching ones, just 2 or 3. The middle paragraph is about the company. Write about the company's recent accomplishments, awards, projects, and news, and find a way to connect yourself to what they do. Finally, the third paragraph is the closing. Thank the employer for their time and politely ask for an interview, as well as provide your contact information. You can find a cover letter template in the professional toolkit linked below the video. The goal of a cover letter is to show you've done your research and that you'll be a good fit for the company's culture. Keyword search the company. Visit their About Us section on the website and see what the latest news articles say about them. Express different values, experiences, and interests that you and the company have in common. By doing these things, you'll write a strong cover letter that impresses. This concludes the resume workshop. You might have some questions pertaining to your specific work experience or education and how that could translate into a resume. The Career Center is here to help. You can schedule a resume review appointment with the Career Center by scanning the QR code on the screen or by clicking the appointment link on our website or in the description below the video. We look forward to working with you.